The day the man collapsed on the sunlit sidewalk, the world seemed to pause just long enough for one exhausted single father to choose between walking away or stepping forward and changing his life forever. Cars continued to pass, city noise hummed like it always did, but for Marcus Hale, standing there with grocery bags cutting into his fingers and worry etched permanently into his face, that single moment felt heavier than every burden he had carried since becoming a father alone. He did not know that the woman struggling for breath at his feet was the powerful CEO of a billion-dollar company, or that saving her life would quietly rewrite his own destiny. He only knew that someone needed help, and he had never been the kind of man who looked away. Before the story truly begins, take a moment to pause. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet heroes who walk among us every day, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Touch. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Marcus Hale had learned to move through life carefully, like someone crossing thin ice. Every step was measured, every decision weighed against the needs of his 8-year-old son, Noah. The morning sun had already warmed the pavement as Marcus walked home from the discount grocery store, mentally calculating how far the food would stretch until his next paycheck from the warehouse. His shirt was slightly faded, his shoes worn thin at the heels, and the lines around his eyes told a story of too many sleepless nights and too few reassurances that everything would be okay. Since his wife's sudden passing 3 years earlier, Marcus had been both mother and father, protector and provider, even when his own strength felt dangerously close to breaking. That morning felt no different from any other until it suddenly was. A few steps ahead, a woman in a tailored light grey suit stumbled, her movements unsteady, her face pale despite the bright day. Marcus watched as she tried to steady herself against a streetlight, then slowly slid down, collapsing onto the concrete. People slowed, some glanced, others walked past pretending not to see. Marcus did not hesitate. He dropped his bags, rushed forward and knelt beside her, shielding her from the harsh glare of the sun with his own body. His heart pounded as he checked for signs of breathing, remembering fragments of first aid training from years ago. His voice was calm, his hands steady, even as fear clawed at his chest. Emergency services arrived quickly, summoned by Marcus while he kept the woman conscious, offering water, reassurance, and presence. By the time the ambulance doors closed, he was covered in sweat, his knees aching, his groceries forgotten and scattered across the sidewalk. He stood there for a long moment after they drove away, watching the bright blue sky as if it held answers. Then he picked up what he could afford to lose and went home, unaware that the woman he had helped was named Evelyn Cross, the founder and CEO of Crosswell Industries, and that she would remember his face long after regaining consciousness. Life did not immediately reward Marcus for his kindness. Bills continued to arrive, the warehouse remained understaffed and overworked, and Noah still needed help with homework every afternoon. Marcus's hands were rough from labor, his back sore, his mind constantly spinning with worries about rent increases and school expenses. Yet something had shifted inside him, subtle but real. Noah noticed it first, how his father smiled a little more that week, how he spoke about helping someone like it mattered, even if nothing else changed. Marcus shrugged it off, saying it was just the right thing to do, but deep down, the memory of that moment lingered like a quiet ember. Across the city, Evelyn Cross lay in a hospital room flooded with daylight, staring at the ceiling and thinking about how close she had come to never seeing another sunrise. She was known in boardrooms as relentless, brilliant, and unyielding. But lying there, stripped of power and titles, she felt something unfamiliar. Gratitude mixed with humility. Her assistant had told her about the man who stayed with her, who knelt on hot concrete and refused to leave until help arrived. Evelyn asked for everything they knew about him, not out of obligation, but because she could not shake the feeling that her life had been handed back to her by someone who expected nothing in return. 2 weeks later, Marcus received a call that made him think someone was playing a cruel joke. A calm, professional voice explained that Evelyn Cross wished to meet him personally. He nearly declined, convinced he had no place in such a world, but curiosity and a strange sense of responsibility pushed him forward. The meeting took place on a bright afternoon in a glass-walled office overlooking the city. Marcus felt out of place in his clean but modest clothes, his hands clasped tightly to keep them from shaking. Evelyn, fully recovered, stood as he entered, her posture strong but her eyes softer than any headline photo had ever shown. She thanked him, not with dramatic gestures, but with sincerity that caught Marcus off guard. She spoke of vulnerability, of how fragile life could be, and how his presence had grounded her in a moment when everything else slipped away. Then she did something unexpected. She asked about him, about his life, his son, his work, his dreams before life had narrowed into survival. Marcus found himself telling her things he rarely spoke aloud, about wanting stability, about fearing that no matter how hard he worked, it would never be enough. Evelyn listened, truly listened, and when she made him an offer, it was not charity. She offered him a job within her company, one that valued reliability, integrity, and lived experience over polished resumes. It was a position with growth, training, and a salary that could finally let Marcus breathe. The weight of the moment pressed down on him, tears threatening to surface as he realized this was more than employment. It was dignity, it was possibility, it was a door he had never imagined opening. Accepting the job changed the rhythm of Marcus's days. He no longer came home exhausted beyond recognition. He had evenings where he could sit with Noah in the park while the sun dipped low, weekends without the constant shadow of overtime shifts. Noah's laughter returned in full force, his drawings brighter, his questions filled with curiosity instead of worry. Marcus carried himself differently too, shoulders straighter, eyes clearer. Yet what surprised him most was that Evelyn did not disappear into her world of meetings and travel. She checked in, not as a boss, but as someone invested in the lives she touched. Over months, their paths crossed more often, shared lunches in daylight cafes near the office, conversations about loss, responsibility, and the strange ways fate intervenes. Evelyn saw in Marcus a quiet strength that no executive seminar could teach. Marcus saw in Evelyn a woman who carried the weight of entire industries, yet still felt deeply, fiercely human. The connection grew slowly, respectfully, rooted in gratitude and mutual understanding rather than grand gestures. When Marcus finally introduced Noah to Evelyn on a sunny afternoon at the company's family event, something inside her softened completely. Watching Marcus help his son navigate the world with patience and love stirred emotions she had long buried beneath ambition. She realized that saving her life had not been the only thing Marcus had done. He had reminded her what living was meant to feel like. The turning point came not with fireworks but with quiet honesty. Marcus admitted his fears, his hesitation to believe that good things could last. Evelyn shared her own loneliness, the cost of success. The night spent wondering who she was beyond her. Title. There was no dramatic confession, only the slow alignment of two lives that had been bent by hardship and were now finding balance together. As the seasons shifted, so did their bond. The city streets where they had first crossed paths now felt symbolic, places where chance and choice intertwined. Marcus often thought about that moment on the sidewalk, how easily he could have walked away, how different everything would be if he had. He taught Noah that kindness mattered, not because it brought rewards, but because it shaped who you became. Yet sometimes kindness did circle back, unexpected and life-altering. If this story has moved you even a little, if it reminded you that compassion still exists in a fast and unforgiving world,